Hey everyone, my name is Praying for Exits. I run a venture capital fund based in California. I've been investing in technology companies for the last 8 years. Some of the companies that I've been helpful with are Anduril, Robinhood, SpaceX, and many others. I now also run a company called Exits Media, where we'll be focused on telling the coolest and most interesting stories around founders and investors in the ecosystem today. Today we're going to be talking about failed businesses. 90% of the businesses that raise venture capital end up failing, but it's those 10% that persevere through that end up making everybody all of their money. Most businesses that raise venture capital will go through a time period where it either looks like they're going to fail, feels like it's going to fail, or some combination of the two. There's a few things that you can do to protect your business from going into failure. While venture capital is a very failure-based business, the best founders in the world consistently find ways to remove aspects of failure from their day-to-day, which prevents it from the long term. I think a great recent example of a business that was very close to failure but ended up turning it around is Airbnb. I don't know if anybody remembers this, but during COVID, right at the start, everybody was canceling Airbnb bookings. Everybody was claiming their insurance against their Airbnbs, and Airbnb was actually in the hole for a lot of money. What this required from them was to go to all of their existing investors and basically say, hey, we believe that this business will be valuable over the long term, and here are the reasons why. Even despite what's happening right now, we think this is still a valuable business into the future. And they were able to raise the money to basically save the business. They raised a couple of $100 million in the middle of COVID, and Brian Chesky and Joe Gebbia were able to utilize that in an efficient way to basically keep Airbnb alive. Another great example of this is Tesla. Tesla and Ford are the two American car companies that have never declared bankruptcy in their entire history. Although there were multiple times and points in time where Elon Musk was basically against the wall, where he had to backstop Tesla's employees' paychecks, had to backstop material orders, basically put up his entire fortune that he made from PayPal in order to save Tesla. Dude, the craziest story is he made $35 million from PayPal, put up 32 of it for Tesla, bought a $1 million McLaren, so he was left with 2. Then he borrowed a bunch of money with $2 million, went couch surfing, got divorced, lost all his money. And then he ended up clearing I think like 130 mil selling some early Tesla or whatever. And then he put in 125 into SpaceX. He's literally gone all in like 4 times in a row, yeah. Another great example of this is the story of FedEx. FedEx was actually down to its last $25,000, and they needed $100,000 by Friday to make payroll. And so what Frederick Smith did when he realized that there was only $25,000 left in the FedEx bank account was he took that $25,000 to Vegas, placed it on black and roulette, won $50,000, and then proceeded to turn that $50,000 to $100,000 playing blackjack. And he was able to make payroll, and FedEx is now the company that it is today. But that, again, is some level of deluded belief that only successful founders seem to have. I personally would not advise gambling the last $25,000 in a company's bank account to basically make payroll without telling anybody specifically. But keeping a company alive is not a perfect science. I think that whatever you have to do to keep your own startup alive shows a level of determination and grit that's actually could be helpful for you even past whatever happens with this. I think what you hear as common advice when you're starting a startup is that it's more likely that you're going to fail than not, but there are some people who just do not believe that. And I think that that level of perseverance and to some extent delusion is the only way that you can actually have a successful startup. You have to believe that everybody else is wrong in a way that you are correct. It takes a very specific type of person who has a low confidence interval around what other people say to be able to pull this off, and there's very, very few people that I've seen that have been able to do it successfully. One of the great parts about having confidence in yourself to that level is you don't really know how confident you are in yourself until you actually get to the point where you have to exhibit it. Some people crumble under that pressure and some people excel and exceed, and I don't think that you actually know until you're faced with those problems. So it kind of incentivizes everybody to at least try. Over time, if you can be that person for long enough, there's a very, very low chance that you won't be successful. It's kind of counterintuitive because in this video I've talked quite a lot about delusion, but I think that the best thing that you can do when a business is obviously failing is be honest with yourself and be brutally honest with yourself in a way that might hurt about why it's failing. And more often than not, it's going to be some function of something that you are doing wrong or some combination of things that you are doing wrong. And if you're not willing to accept the fact that if your business is failing, it's by and large some coefficient of things that you've done to it, then it's going to be very hard to turn it around. But if you're able to live in a world of brutal honesty with yourself, there's a much better chance of you succeeding and being able to get out of the mud. When things are obviously failing, another great thing that you can do is go out to people around you who have watched you build this this thing who may have a different perspective on why things are working and why things are not. You have to be open and honest with yourself about why these people are trying to tell you these things. A lot of people can get offended, a lot of people can feel discouraged or feel bad about themselves, but consistently what you see from the best founders is that they take this information, they abstract it away from their own emotion, they utilize it in a way that is the best for the company, even at the sacrifice to themselves. I think that no matter how big your company is or what you do, problems often feel way bigger to you than they do other people. And one of the great parts about Silicon Valley specifically is that failure is actually looked at in kind of a positive lens. If you've run a few companies before and you've torched them into the ground, Silicon Valley is a place where you can try a lot of things before people stop caring about your ideas. Even if you're running a small restaurant or production company or anything like this, no matter how big your problems feel, unless you've done something criminal or something just like morally reprehensible, you will get another shot. Most people will support you over and over again until you get it right. And so no matter how things are going for you now, there's always light at the end of the tunnel, whether it's through the thing you're doing at this current second or what you're doing 10 years from now. As always, like, subscribe, and if you have other interesting ideas on topics that we could cover, please comment below. And if you're interested in ways that you can make your startup more interesting to investors as you go out and raise money, click the link right here.